Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Islamic or Sharia law, injunctions, family life. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah, amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Maintenance. As has been stated earlier, the provisions of sustenance of the wife is the responsibility of her husband, as said in Ayah 4-34. Therefore, as long as she remains in his wedlock, he shall be responsible. This includes the place of residence as well. B. During the waiting period of a divorced woman, that is, during Iddat, the above stated responsibility shall lie on the husband. As said in Ayah 2-241, 65-1, 65-6 to 7, except when she is guilty of immodesty, as said in Ayah 65-1. And its details will be there under the topic of the Iddat, which is waiting period of a divorced woman. C. As regards to a widow, the responsibility for her maintenance still lies on the man for a period of 1 year. Therefore, he ought to leave a will for her, but his responsibility remains no more if and when she leaves the home of the deceased husband of her own free will. Its details will come under the heading of inheritance. 14. Strained relations. 1. As described earlier, the object of marriage is to lead a life full of love and tranquility. Thus, a careful selection of partners is an utmost necessity. Yet circumstances may arise when mutual relations become strained. In some events, unpleasantness may be temporary, owing to tempers being volatile. For example, a person, while angry, begins to talk absurdly, or on account of ignorance, calls his wife mother, or anything like that. This is termed zihar in technical terms. And when the rage cools down, he feels ashamed. The Quran says that such foolish talk and oaths should not be taken seriously, as said in Ayah 2-225. Allah will not call you to account for absurd oaths, but you'll be accountable for such oaths that are taken with the intention of your hearts. Also said in Ayah 5-89, by calling your wife mother, she does not actually becomes your mother, as said in Ayah 33-4. Nor has he made your wives when you express so by zihar, your mothers. Such foolish behavior makes family atmosphere venomous. The Quran therefore considers it necessary to penalize such behavior. In such cases, before the resumption of sexual relations, the Quran ordains a freeing a slave. That is, this relates to the period when slaves were present. B. If slaves are not found, fasting for 2 months. C. If one lacks endurance for fasting for 2 months, then feeding 60 indigents. In Surah Mujadila, it is said in Ayah 58-3 and 4. But those who call their wives mothers, that is, are something like that, then wish to go back on the words they had uttered. It is ordained that such a one should free a slave before they copulate. To this you are exhorted, and Allah is very acquainted with all that you do. And if anyone who has not the means, he should fast for 2 months consecutively before he copulates. But if one is unable to do even that, he should feed 60 indigent ones. This is to ensure that you do profess Iman, a firm belief in the divine system which has been established by Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is essential for a believer to keep himself bound by the limits laid down by Allah. In case one makes a mistake, its compensation lies in the steps described above. But the people who reject these limits are non believers, and there is a tormenting chastisement for them. 2. The above relates to absurd oaths while in the state of anger. But if someone willfully takes an oath not to go to his wife, in terms ila is used for it in Arabic, such a state cannot be allowed to continue indefinitely. The Quran has ordained that such a person should decide within 4 months whether he wants to keep his wife in wedlock or not, as said in Ayah 2-226 and 227. For those who take an oath of abstention from their wives, a waiting period of 4 months is ordained, because a woman cannot be left in this condition for an unlimited period. If then they return to their ordinary life, they are allowed, because a room has been left for forgiveness and protection in such falterings, as said in Ayah 95-89, 33-4, and 58-3. That is, like penalty for breaking an oath. But if their intention is firm for divorce, then should proceed in accordance with the divine law, which is from Allah, who is all hearing, all knowing. He knows that separation is better course in such cases. An Islamic state can formulate necessary laws for those who do not want to keep their wives with them, or for those whose whereabouts become unknown. This aim is to provide protection to the rights of a woman and not to leave her entirely at the mercy of her husband. 15. Divorce. Nikah is a contract between a sensible and mature man and woman to lead a married life. The Quran provides such instructions under which this contract is fulfilled with beauty and proportion, because the social life of a nation depends on agreeable and favorable environments within the home itself. This forms the basis for a proper upbringing of a nation. But if, in spite of all that, occasion arises when it becomes impossible for them to live together, the Quran allows separation after the dissolution of the contract of marriage. This act is called divorce. Keep in mind this meaning of the word divorce. The case of marriage was left to the mutual consent of both parties on account of its being a personal affair. But the dissolution of marriage remains no more a personal affair because it affects the opposite party as well, their offsprings in most cases. Thus, it becomes a collective society affair for which instructions have not been laid down by the Quran. There is one thing in this case which is important and which needs clarification. Whereas mutual discretion of both parties was essential for marriage, such as the dissolution of marriage cannot take place by the consent of one party alone. The husband cannot be allowed to declare divorce, divorce, divorce on his own free will whenever he so likes and turn his wife out from the house. While on the other hand, the other party, wife, be made so helpless that she is compelled to bear many hardships in order to be able to get rid of this commitment. The Quran has ordained equal rights and obligations for a husband and a wife. Their position is equal in this respect also. Let us look at the instructions it gives to the society. It says in Ayah 4-35, if you fear a breach between them, the couple. The concerned authority should constitute a board of arbitration consisting of two members, one from his family and the other from hers. Thus, if the husband and the wife make up their minds of reconciliation, the two arbiters should attempt to bring them close to each other. The divine law shall bring about reconciliation because the law is based on Allah's knowledge, who is acquainted with all things. The term includes both man and the woman. The complainant may be the man or the woman. In both cases, it's duty of society to appoint an arbitration board. If the woman feels an excess or disinclination from her husband, even then they try to patch up their differences amongst themselves or ask for a board of arbitration to be appointed. Thus it said in Ayah 4-128, and if a woman fears ill usage from her husband or desertion, no blame is on them if they effect a reconciliation between them, for amicable settlement is always good. Or otherwise, ask for the appointment of a board of arbitration. In Surah Al Mujadala, 58th chapter of the Quran, it is said in Ayah 58-1, Allah has indeed heard the woman who was disputing with you concerning her husband and complaining to Allah about the maltreatment she was receiving at the hands of her husband. And Allah was hearing the contentions of both of you. Surely Allah hears and sees all things. This also makes it clear that a woman, sorry, woman can take her case to a court of law and has full right to apply for divorce. However, the first priority of the court of arbitration shall be to bring about reconciliation between them. Remember, the Quran has used the term talaq, divorce, both in respect of the husband and the wife. The term khula, divorce obtained by wife against a ransom by herself or through an attorney, is nowhere to be found in Quran. Moreover, when it is said that husband has delegated his right of divorce to his wife, this is not correct. According to Holy Quran, because husband and wife have equal rights of divorce, delegating the right of divorce by husband, tafweez, in juristic terminology, makes no sense. If reconciliation cannot be brought about, the court which has convened the board of arbitration shall declare dissolution of marriage. This shall be known as divorce. It is said in Surah At-Talaq, Ayah 65, At-Talaq, 65th chapter of Quran, in Ayah 65-1. O Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when you pronounce decisions and divorce cases, tell the people concerned that after this, the divorce, the issue of counting period Iddah, is a matter of great importance and must be completed. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been addressed in the verse 65-1 by words. When you divorce women, here the word used is talaqatum, which is plural. Thus, the matter does not concern the divorce of any wife of the Rasul himself. Such a question never arose. As a matter of fact, it is the status of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a judge that is being addressed. Thus, the word talaqatum means when you decide the divorce cases of women. It makes clear that divorce is not an individual affair, allowing a man to divorce his wife anytime he likes. Such decisions shall only be announced by duly authorized courts. The court first appoints a board of arbitration, and if reconciliation fails, then it decrees the divorce. Because the calculation of the period of Iddat depends upon the number of menstrual periods. The execution of divorce ought to take place after the last menstrual period is over. In the above said verse, 65-1, after the words come, the words meaning to count accurately, the court shall make this point clear in its decision. If the court finds that the husband does not want a reconciliation, it shall grant a divorce without taking anything back of the dowry money from the wife. It is thus said in Surah An-Nisa, that is fourth chapter of Holy Quran, ayah 4-20 and 21. If you intend to take another woman in place of the present wife, it does in no way mean that the desire to bring in a new wife can become a reason for divorce. It only means that if, according to the conditions laid down, which were mentioned earlier, the matter reaches to the stage of divorce and you have given the later a whole treasure, heap of gold as a dower, you should not take back even a portion of it. However, if the demand for a divorce was initiated by the wife, as said in Ayah 2-29, our wife is guilty of immodesty, as said in Ayah 4-19, a part can be retrieved from her. In case no such conditions prevail, then you should not slander her or accuse her of open wrong in order to compel her to surrender a part of her dower. How can you do such a thing when your wives have taken a solemn covenant from you and you also have enjoyed marital relations with each other? But if the woman is guilty of a shameful act which leads to adultery or fornication, then, as said in Ayah 14, it is not lawful for you to try to detain them forcibly so that you may fraudulently take away part of the dower that you have given them, except when they have been guilty of open immodesty, or if she herself is unwilling to live with her husband. The court can order some compensation to be paid to the husband, as said in Ayah 2-29. In case of dissolution of marriage, it is not lawful for you men to take back any of your gifts from your wife, except when a situation arises that this money is blocking the way to the finalization of divorce, and on the other hand, on account of strained relations. In case of the continuation of their marital relationship, both parties fear that they would not be able to safeguard the limits ordained by Allah in faithfully discharging their obligations, and the society's judicial system also reaches the same conclusion. There is no blame on either of them if she gives something for her freedom from the bonds of marriage. Such conditions may arise that woman gets married with ill intentions and, having received the dower money, takes steps to seek divorce. In such cases, forgiving a part of the dower shall serve as a deterrent against such nefarious designs. After court declares divorce, the period of Iddah shall begin, and Iddat means the prescribed period before the end of which the woman cannot marry again. The details are given under the heading Iddat. If it may be termed as waiting period. During this period of Iddat, the woman shall continue to reside in her ex-husband's house and he is responsible for her maintenance. What the Quran has said further in this regard needs careful attention. It is said that Surah At-Talaq, 65th chapter of Quran, in Ayah 65-2, then when they, the divorced women, complete their appointed term, either take them back in the recognized manner or part from them according to the law. In Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2nd of Quran, it is said in Ayah 2-29, after that, either keep them according to the law or separate them with benevolence. Again, it is said in Ayah 2-28, and their husbands have a better right to take them back in that period if they wish for reconciliation. It is apparent for the above that during the period of Iddat, a chance is given to rebuild the marital relationship. This clarifies two issues. If the wife is the one to initiate the divorce, then this means she does not want to live with her husband, and he then cannot keep her back forcibly. However, it is a different thing if she changes her mind. B. If it is the husband who initiates the divorce, although she wants to live with him, the relationship can be re-established if he changes his mind. In such an event, the Quran has warned the husband not to take the wife back with the intention of vexing her. That is in Ayah 2-231. Do not take them back with the intention of causing them harm or to transgress the limits imposed by Allah. If anyone does so, he only wrongs his own self. The question now arises, is a renewal of the contract of marriage needed? Or the previous contract shall be considered sufficient? In this respect of Quran, in this respect, the Quran has used the term bil maruf, which means a procedure recognized by Islamic society in light of the Quranic guidance. Thus, if the Islamic society thinks that a renewal of the contract of marriage is unnecessary, it shall be the correct decision, and if it decides that renewal is called for, that too shall be a correct decision. After all, nikah, the contract of marriage, is nothing more than the recognition of the consent of a husband and his wife. However, in verse 2-232, the Quran has used the word nikah. When it is said in ayah 2-32, when you divorce women and they are near the completion of the term of their iddat, and both man and the wife are desirous to resume their matrimonial life, O members of the society, do not prevent them from marrying their former husbands if they mutually agree. Her again, here again, the word bil maruf is used, which means according to the way recognized by the system of the state. However, the government ought to keep it in mind that the renewal of marriage during the period of iddat ought to be carried out in a way which may be considered a contract of marriage. If they have made up their minds to live together again, it shall be carried out according to the above procedure. But if they decide on separation, two witnesses shall be required, as said in Ayah 52-2. Then, when they approach the end of the term appointed, look at the whole issue in a cool, dispassionate manner, and if the constancy appears possible, why resort to separation? Get united in a recognized manner, but if constancy is not possible, part from them on the recognized terms, and take for witness two persons from among you imbued with justice. That is, those who are not inclined to any one party, and establish evidence as duty ordained by Allah. After this, the facilities available to them, the women in the period of iddat, shall come to an end. Thus, the husband and the wife may reunite during the period of iddat or may get separated. This shall be counted as one divorce. If this couple again becomes husband and wife during or after the period of iddat, but again decide to separate, its procedure shall be the same as described above. This shall be the second divorce. After this second divorce, if they once again decide reunion, but this also results in third divorce, they cannot become husband and wife again, neither during the period of iddat nor any time thereafter, because ayah 2-29 says, a divorce is only permissible twice. After that, the parties should either hold together on the recognized terms or separate with kindness. That is, after the third divorce, remarriage is not permissible. However, if after third divorce the woman gets married to some other person, but there also the union ends in divorce, or if she becomes a widow, she can again establish the contract of marriage with the first husband. This has been explained as such in verses 2-29 and 2-230 and both. Remember, during the married life of a husband and wife, it is possible only twice. It is possible only twice to either hold together on the recognized terms or separate with kindness. But if the divorce between them takes place the third time, they shall not be able to remarry, as said in Ayah 2-230. In case of dissolution of marriage, you are not permitted to take back anything of what you have given to the wife. However, if an occasion arises that this very factor becomes an impediment in the way of dissolution of marriage, and at the same time there is an apprehension that in case of living together as husband and wife, they shall not be able to keep the limits laid down by the divine law on account of their deranged relations, and also the society's system of justice reaches the same conclusion that the husband ought to get some recompense. In that case, there is no harm that the wife may agree to forego a part of what is rightfully hers, and get herself rid of the marital contract. These are the limits imposed by Allah. Do not transgress them. And whosoever does so would be held guilty by the divine order. So, if a husband divorces his wife irrevocably, he cannot after that remarry her until after she has married another husband and he has divorced her. In that case, there is no blame on either of them. If they reunite and provided they feel that they can keep the limits ordained by Allah. Such are the limits ordained by Allah, which He makes plain to those who possess the knowledge of the exigencies of social life. These are the verses which are produced as an evidence to prove that somebody says divorce, divorce, divorce three times, they shall have to go through the process of halala. This interpretation of the above verse is against the Quran. As explained earlier, divorce means freedom from the contract of marriage. The dissolution of marriage can take place only by following the details described above. The divorce does not become valid by the verbal utterance of the words divorce, whether it is repeated once, thrice, or 100 times. Three divorce means the dissolution of nikah between a husband and his wife three times during their married life spread over a period of time. After two dissolutions, there still remains a chance of reunion. But after the third dissolution, there is no chance. It is final, except under the condition described above. Even in that case, marriage with another husband does not mean sexual intercourse for one night halala. It means to live the life of a husband and wife in a regular way. As it has been said earlier, the dower are to be paid during the process of marriage contract. But if the wife has postponed its receipt of a legal period for a legal period, it shall now become an urgent recovery after the dissolution of marriage. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude this session at this point. To be continued later, injunctions for family life, inshallah. Let's pray from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He uh, grants us the wisdom and energy to learn Holy Quran and Islamic Sharia law, and gives us courage to apply on ourselves in true sense, and apply on our societies, our countries, and world as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, please uh, also pray from Allah that He be our guide and protector and bestows upon us whatever best suits us. He be our best knowledge, best protector and guide. And ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourselves, your nearest dears, kith and kins, and your overall environment. Till next session, Allah Hafiz.